Good morning, Bitcoiners. Hello, and welcome back to your Bitcoin economic calendar, the insights you need to start the week off right in Bitcoin. I'm Mauricio Di Bartolomeo, co-founder of Ledn, and today is Tuesday, March 1st, 2022. Today is a very special issue as it marks one whole year since our Proof of Reserves Attestation protocol began. We have now completed our third successful Proof of Reserves Attestation, and we want to celebrate that with our clients. We're going to go through just quickly a summary of our blog post on how you can check your proof of reserves and how you can be included in our next round of proof of reserves attestation, which will be 6 months from now. We're also going to be talking about our interest rates as of March 1st, and we are also going to be discussing the current situation in Russia and Ukraine, which is essentially leading to Bitcoin having its moment, and the world is watching. So all of those things we're going to cover in today's video. In the blog section, we're also going to be touching on the comparison of Bitcoin's recent performance to that of gold, and we're also going to be talking about or discussing potential implications from the ongoing conflict to decentralized finance. So without further ado, on to our analysis. And we wanted to start today's issue by letting you all know that we have now completed our third round of proof of reserves attestations. And if you are a Ledn client, you will have received an email letting you know that this has been completed, as well as instructions on how to check your balance through the Armanino website. There is a blog and there is a link in that email that takes you to this, essentially this educational blog post, which will take you step by step on how to check your proof of reserves. And just quickly here, we're going to just take you through it. The proof of reserves section, it will be at the bottom part of your dashboard. And once this section should be updated now to include the most recent attestation. So in here, you will see a reference number, a date, and a URL link. What you will have to do is in that section, you will copy your anonymized reference number, and then you will head on to the Armanino link, which is this button here to the far right. Once you land at the Armanino's website, you can click on check my balance. And in there, you will have to paste the hashed user ID that you copied from the Ledn dashboard. And then you would click find my balances. After that, you will get a pop-up, and these fields here will populate with your balances in the attestation, and they should match your balances on your Ledn account at the time of the attestation to the Satoshi and to the cent. So this is something that makes us very, very proud, and we welcome you to go check your reserves right away. We also recently announced our interest rates as of March 1st. So as you can see, our balances or our savings accounts interest rates for our Bitcoin savings account will remain the same, will remain at 6.25 APY for the first half of Bitcoin and 2.25% APY for balances above half of Bitcoin. And interest rate for the USDC savings account remains at 9.25% APY for all balances. So today's Bitcoin section is going to be a little bit different. Our hearts go out to the people of Ukraine. It's been 4 days since Russia launched an invasion into Ukraine, triggering the largest scale conflict in at least a decade. The war has caused markets around the world to react and adjust, and in times of war, investors gravitate to safety. In the past, this used to mean buying physical gold or US dollars. The flight to safety phenomenon is very popular in finance and happens for very natural reasons, which we will explore today. Let's take a look at the current example, which is happening given the recent conflict, and this example has a very modern twist to the old story. In the Ukraine, local banks are shut down right now. They cannot open, and the internet infrastructure is very shaky at the moment to access online banking. Naturally, there is a lot of uncertainty as to what will happen given the recent or the current state of affairs. So people want to hold the absolute minimum amount of local currency that they need. This is natural. And this leads to people selling their excess local currency, making it lose value relative to other goods and other currencies. You can see the headline on your screen right now that talks about Ukraine's currency extending its losses now down 8% since this started. Imagine all of your accumulated wealth and savings, if you're storing it in that currency, just disappears. 10% of it disappears overnight. A similar thing is happening in Russia. Their banks are getting sanctioned, so will other parts of their economy. And as you can see, the headline from CNBC, the Russian ruble has plunged nearly 30% against the dollar since this invasion began. So naturally, Russian locals do not want to hold any more rubles than they absolutely need. Most people in Russia and Ukraine do not have US dollar denominated bank accounts in foreign banks. And you cannot airlift physical dollars overnight to satisfy demand. In these circumstances, many times, dollars in foreign bank accounts that you can buy locally trade at a premium to physical dollar bills. This happened in Venezuela. I lived through it. And so, what can people protect, or what can people buy to protect the value of their savings? The headline that you have here from BNN Bloomberg basically answers the question. Bitcoin volume spikes in Russia and Ukraine as sanctions hit. So the answer is Bitcoin. If we look at this article from CoinDesk, which talks about Russian ruble volumes for Bitcoin surging to a 9-month high, we see the chart speaks for itself. This has led to a recent rally in Bitcoin prices, as we have seen. Yesterday, Bitcoin prices were up 14.49%. Today, they are up another 1.49%. The current rally caught many investors off guard because many investors think of Bitcoin only as a risk asset. They do not understand how empowering and liberating it can be for people in times of monetary uncertainty. Uncertainty is relative. Bitcoin's volatility makes its price in dollars hard to predict, hence uncertain at times. However, there are many instances during which a person will willingly decide to accept the uncertainty in price if it means certainty of ownership, availability, and transferability, like it's happening right now, and this has happened around the world, like it happened in Venezuela and many other places. Bitcoin is having its moment, and the world is watching. So what happens next? With governments around the world looking to monitor financial activity increasingly more closely in the midst of this conflict, it is likely that they start looking at crypto as another financial rail to pay attention to. Both the Canadian and the US government have already sanctioned Bitcoin addresses in the past. These are targeted sanctions with limited practical implications and should not have a long-term impact on Bitcoin prices over the long term. In terms of price action, the recent buying surge unraveled into a short covering rally. As we saw here, the rally, 15% rally from yesterday and again continuing today, has crushed some of the Bitcoin shorts. And this is the chart from the shorts that we have here. As we can see, Bitcoin short positions have covered by more than 51% in the last 4 days. So very much this has been a short covering rally. And there is still some room to go down given historical levels of where the short interest is at the moment. So many investors had shorted Bitcoin going into the conflict, thinking it would sell off along with other risk assets. It didn't. And many investors that took this position had to cut their losses. Now, there is a chance that we revert back from the current euphoria as the shorts finish covering. And a lot will depend on how the conflict continues to unfold and how long it lasts and how central banks around the world respond. So, more on this in the blog section where we compare the recent performance of Bitcoin to that of gold in the current crisis. Some very interesting insights there as well. And we're going to wrap up with what's ahead for this week. We have a packed agenda of Fed speakers this week and an ongoing conflict. So markets will be on edge for most of the week. Today at 2 p.m., we get Atlanta Fed President Raphael Bostic giving a speech. Wednesday, tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern, the Chicago Fed President Charles Evans gives a speech. 9:30 a.m. Eastern, St. Louis Fed President James Bullard gives a speech. Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern, Fed Chairman Jerome Powell testifies before the Senate committee. And at 6 p.m. Eastern, New York Fed President John Williams speaks. You can see that the Fed is out with their entire roster this week trying to appease the population, I guess the citizenry, and letting them know that they have a plan for the current conflict. Friday, 8:45 a.m. Eastern, Chicago Fed President Charles Evans speaks. 8:30 a.m. Eastern, we get the unemployment rate for the United States. Expectation here is for a tick up to 4% from the current 3.9%. And we also get the average hourly earnings for U.S. workers in the month of February. So it's a very big week ahead, very fluid geopolitical context and macro context. The Fed is scheduled to meet in 2 weeks' time to discuss potential raising rates. We touch on some of this also on the blog. It'll be a fascinating, fast-moving week, so we'll keep you posted on our social media and right here through our Bitcoin economic calendar. If you enjoyed the show, if you learned something, I welcome you to hands up, like it, subscribe to our channel, share it with your friends. If you don't yet have a Ledn account, I welcome you to check out ledn.io and learn how you can start earning the best rates for your Bitcoin and USDC. We also have the market-leading rates for loans if you need liquidity and don't want to sell your Bitcoin. And we also have our Bitcoin mortgage, which lets you buy a house as big as your stack. Thank you so much for joining us. See you next time. Have a great week.